Hi and welcome to the video presentation of the Group 1 in second round for the subject of Islamic Accounting ACC 4043 as a Group 1 leader and also representing my group. I would like to thank to our lecturer Sir Amizi bin Muhammad Zain for presenting the task that was given to us. In this video, my group would like to present what we got from the article entitled Optimal Sharia Governance in Islamic Finance by Dr. Aznan bin Hassan. So before we go to the next slide, I would like to say what we can see in this slide. Number one, as I already say, the title article that my group chose. Number two, the writer name for the article. Number three, my partner name. Number one, Nur Hasni. Number two, Nur Amira. Number three, Nur Izzati. And four, me, Ahmad Nur Aiman. Before I go to my part in this video presentation, I would like to tell what my group partner and also me to present in this video presentation. Number one, the importance of Sharia governance in Islamic banking and finance. Number two, model of Sharia governance, selected countries. Number three, governance relating to Sharia Supervisor Board. Number four, proposition for a better Sharia governance. And number five, conclusion. Okay, I will continue for my part. Number one, the importance of Sharia governance in Islamic banking and finance. Sharia governance within the ambit of corporate governance. Number one, corporate governance refers to the method by which a corporation is directed, administered, or controlled. Number two, since Islamic financial institution in many ways is similar to the conventional financial institution, the existence of a proper framework of corporate governance is a matter of dire necessity. Number three, Islamic financial institution has the responsibility to ensure the compliance with the Sharia principles in its products, instruments, operations, practice, management, and so on, which is different from conventional financial institution. Sharia governance within the ambit of corporate governance. Number one, Sharia governance is another component that is peculiar exclusively to Islamic financial institution or FI. Number two, principle 3.1 of the Islamic Financial Service Board or IFSB guiding principles on corporate governance states that an appropriate mechanism must be created to ensure the compliance with the Sharia principles. Number three, Principle 37.1 of the Islamic Financial Service Board or IFSB guiding principles on risk management states that Islamic financial institution or FI should have the in place adequate systems and controls, including Sharia board or advisor to ensure compliance with the Sharia principles. The importance of Sharia governance in Islamic banking and finance. Number one, Sharia compliance is the backbone of Islamic banking and finance. Number two, it gives legitimacy to the practice of Islamic banking and finance. Number three, it also boosts the confidence of the shareholders and the public that all the practice and activities are in compliance with the Sharia at all times. The importance of Sharia governance in Islamic banking and finance. Number one, the existence of non-Sharia compliant element will not just affect the confidence of the public to Islamic banking and finance. Number two, but might also expose Islamic financial institution or FI to risks such as fiduciary and reputational risks. Number three, the compliance with the Sharia principle will be achieved by having a proper Sharia governance framework.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Next, we will look at Sessions 2, Models of Sharia Governance. We will look at 6 different models from 6 different countries: Malaysia, Pakistan, Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE, and Qatar. Okay, the first model is from our own country, Malaysia. At the Central Bank, Bank Negara Malaysia, we have Sharia Advisory Councils, which become the final authority in matter related to Islamic banking and finance, takaful, and any other business which is based on Sharia principles and is supervised and regulated by Bank Negara Malaysia. So as higher Sharia authority, these councils will be referred to by the court or arbitrators in disputes involving Sharia issue in Islamic bankings and finance. Besides that, according to guidelines issued by Bank Negara Malaysia, each Islamic financial institution need to have their own Sharia committee, where this committee will play a complementary roles to SAC of Bank Negara Malaysia. And in terms of restrictions, there are two things found in the law. First, members of SAC of Bank Negara Malaysia are not allowed to serve in any Sharia committee in any financial institutions. And the second restriction is one Sharia advisor can only serve as a member of Sharia committee in one financial institution in the same industry. In Malaysia, Islamic banking and takafuls are considered two different industry. Okay, the second model is from Pakistan. At the central bank, state banks of Pakistan, we have Sharia board, which become the sole authority in matters related to Islamic banking and finance. And according to their law as well, each Islamic financial institutions need to have their own Sharia committee. And any member of Sharia board at the central banks is allowed to serve as Sharia advisor in any financial institution. So this is what difference from Malaysia case. And in terms of restrictions, there's one thing found in the law, which is a Sharia advisor is allowed to serve only one financial institutions. And in Pakistan, there's no divisions of industry like Malaysia situations. Okay, the third model is from Kuwait. At the Central Bank of Kuwait, there's no Sharia advisory councils. However, according to their law, it is a requirement for each Islamic financial institutions to have their own Sharia supervisory board. And in case of conflict, Fatwa board in the Ministry of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs shall be their final authority. And in terms of restrictions, nothing is mentioned in the law. So it is safe to say is that member of Fatwa board can serve in any Islamic financial institutions, and there's no limitations to Sharia Supervisory Board to serve in any Islamic financial institution. Okay, the fourth model is from Bahrain. At the central bank, we have National Sharia Board, which is to serve and to verify the Sharia compliance of its own product only. And for each Islamic financial institutions, each will have their own Sharia supervisory board. And in terms of restrictions, nothing was mentioned in the law. Okay, the next model is from United Arab Emirates. At the Central Bank of UAE, we have Higher Sharia Authority, which will become the final authority in Sharia matters in Islamic banking and finance. And for each Islamic financial institutions, each will have their own Sharia supervision authority. And in terms of restrictions, nothing is mentioned in the law. Okay, the last model is from Qatar. At the Central Bank of Qatar, there's no Sharia Advisory Board, and each Islamic financial institution shall have their own Sharia Supervisory Board. And in terms of conflict, they will refer the matter to Supreme Sharia Councils attached to Awqaf Minister for clarification. And Central Bank of Qatar will appoint Sharia scholars to solve any problem encountered based on case-to-case basis. And in terms of restrictions, there's also nothing mentioned in the law. Okay, based on the models presented before, we know that Malaysia has a strict law compared to other countries. We know that in Malaysia, the member of SAC of Negara Malaysia are not allowed to serve in Islamic financial institutions, and there's limitations to how many institutions can one advisor serve. And there's actually pro and con to the practice. First, we'll look at the advantages. It helps to avoid conflict of interest, preserve secrecy and confidentiality, and it allows more new brains to enter the market. However, in terms of disadvantages, there will be absoluteness of the knowledge of the member of SEC. It deprives the market from good brains and no interaction between experienced and inexperienced Sharia advisors. I think that's all from me. I will pass to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Amira binti Ahmad Sharif. My metric number is PPB 20030. Next, I would like to talk about governance relating to Sharia Supervisory Board. What is Sharia Supervisory Board? It is an independent body of specialized jurists in fiqh al-mu'amalah, Islamic commercial jurisprudence. However, the board may include a member other than those specialized in fiqh al-mu'amalah, but who should be an expert in the field of Islamic institutions and with the duty of directing, reviewing, and supervising the activities of the Islamic financial institutions in order to ensure that they are in compliance with Islamic Sharia rules and principles. Second, the fatwa and rulings of Sharia Supervisory Board shall be binding on the Islamic financial institutions. Among common practice are appointment of in-house Sharia Supervisory Board's member. Some Islamic financial institutions have established their own dedicated Sharia review and audit department or unit to support the Sharia Supervisory Board. Main responsibility of the SSB with the assistance of department, ex ante and ex post Sharia rulings. Ex ante is the predictions of an event before it happens or before its participants become aware of the event. The predictions may involve individual products of a business unit, or the entire business entity. The predicted outcome serves as a basis for comparing the prediction to the actual results. For example, the Federal Reserve makes an ex ante predictions on expected inflation to decide whether to raise or lower interest rates. The predictions is not based on actual data since the event will occur in the future and does not know with the certainty how the economic performance will be. What is ex post? Ex post is a Latin word that means after the event. It is opposite of the Latin word ex ante. Investment companies use the concept to forecast the expected returns of a security based on the actual or historical returns earned by the security, unlike ex ante, which is based on estimated return. Ex post represents the actual results attained by the company, which is the return earned by the company's investors. The ex post value of an asset can be calculated by taking the starting and the ending values during a specific period, usually less than a year, and then taking into account the asset value growth or declines, as well as earned income from the asset, monitoring and supervising. Next is composition. The AAOIFI standard requires at least 3 individuals. Legal or statutory requirements varies from 1 individual, at least 3 individuals in Malaysia. They do not serve any Islamic financial institution in any capacity over the nominating period and for the entire term of the board, but may serve central banks, regulatory authorities, governmental bodies of not-for-profit organizations. In contemporary practice for Malaysia, a Sharia commit member must be an individual. A Sharia commit shall not be formed by a firm, institution, or body. The member of Sharia commit shall at least either have qualification or possess necessary knowledge, expertise, or experience. As an example, in Islamic jurisprudence, usul fiqh, Islamic transaction or commercial law, fiqh al-mu'amalat, paper qualification on the above will not be mandatory as long as the candidate has the necessary expertise or experience in the above areas. Qualification for Pakistan. Educational qualification. Degree from any recognized Wafakul Madaris Darsi Nizam with a minimum of second class bachelor degree with economics. Second, a degree from any recognized Wafakul Madaris Darsi Nizam with Takasus fil fiqh and sufficient understanding in banking and finance. Postgraduate degree in Islamic jurisprudence, Usuluddin, LLM, Sharia, from any recognized university with exposure to banking and finance. Experience and exposure. Must have at least 3 years experience of giving Sharia rulings or at least 5 years experience in research and development of Islamic banking and finance. Reasonable knowledge of Arabic and English language is necessary. Qualification for Pakistan. In extraordinary circumstances where the person is otherwise qualified for rendering Sharia judgments on banking and financial concerns, the State Bank of Pakistan may, at its sole discretion, grant relaxation in terms of educational qualification and experience. Track record. The Sharia advisor must have an impeccable track record in social, economic, and financial dealings. Postgraduate degree in Islamic jurisprudence, Usuluddin, LLM Sharia, from any recognized university with exposure to banking and finance. Qualification for Pakistan, solvency and financial integrity. has not been associated with any illegal activity, especially relating to banking business, has not been in default of payment of dues owed to any financial institution, or default in payment of any tax in individual capacity or as proprietary concern. Qualification for Pakistan: integrity, honesty, and reputation. Has not been convicted in any criminal offense or involved in financial impropriety and moral turpitude. Has not been subject to any adverse findings or any settlement in civil, criminal proceedings, particularly with regard to investments, financial business, misconduct, fraud, and more. Has not contravened any of the requirements and standards of regulatory system or the equivalent standards of requirement of any regulatory authorities. Has not been debarred for giving religious rulings by any religious institution or body. Roles and responsibility. The Sharia in Islamic finance has a crucial role not only in governing financial transactions and operations, but also in monitoring and supervising the role of all players within the financial system. Hence, the role of the SSB mainly must cover ex-ante Sharia rulings as well as ex-post Sharia rulings. Thus include reviewing, certifying the permissibility of all contracts, documentation, and products, execution periods, interim, confirming the consistency and compliance level of the practice to Sharia rulings, made Sharia audit, advising and monitoring the manner of disposing the non-Sharia compliant earnings, issuing a Sharia supervisory report certifying that all transactions conducted by the Islamic FI comply with Sharia, normally incorporated in the annual report of the Islamic FI. Some concerns, a situation of conflicts of interest may occur when a product or instrument of the Islamic FI is brought up for approval from the central bank's higher Sharia body, where a Sharia advisor sitting in the central bank's higher Sharia body also serves that particular Islamic FI. Issues of concern, secrecy and confidentiality of trade secrets when a Sharia advisor serves more than one Islamic FI in same industry.
My name is Nur Izzati binti Ma'no, so I would like to present my part, which is proposition for a better Sharia governance. So the first one is the way forward in Sharia governance in Islamic finance industry. Has the best practice that need to apply in Sharia governance, which is no hard and fast rule. Next, taking into account the level and pace of Islamic finance development. It may vary from one country to another country. Next is the Islamic financial service industry is notably still in its infancy stage. It's one that is new and in its early stage of development and thus not only yet capable of competing against established industry competitors. In light of this, rule-based approach adopted in HIS can be effective, like adopted in HIS aiming at strengthening the governance of the industry may jeopardize and hinder its potential and its healthy growth. Next, the proposition of this, some common elements that underlie good governance and best practice may be drawn, like to facilitate the creation and optimize a healthy and available environment So the next one, we go to the initiative and strategy. They have three, which are Sharia Advisory Council via the Sharia Supervisory Board of Islamic Financial Industry. Scope of supervisory responsibilities, internal and external Sharia review or audit. So the first one is Sharia Advisory Council via the Sharia Supervisory Board of Islamic Financial Islamic. We go through of this topic. The first one, the establishment central bank Sharia Advisory Council through of promulgation of law. Next, to accord the financial authority to the Sharia Advisory Council in matters relating to Islamic banking and finance. The appointment of its members from various related backgrounds like Sharia, legal, economic, finance, etc. with the members shall consist mainly Sharia scholars. To allow the regulars or central bank Sharia Advisory Council members to serve in Islamic FISSB, like the limitation membership in Islamic financial industry, appointing only one Sharia advisor from central banks Sharia Advisory Council, and in order to avoid concentration. Secondly is scope of supervisory responsibilities. Focus the Sharia supervisory process, which is into micro and macro analysis, to the operations and practice of the Islamic financial industry. Second, should not be limited only to products development process and its verification. Also, to cover the banking practice and conduct of the Islamic as a whole. Next, almost all LSBs have access to the extant Sharia rulings. However, the practice of exposed Sharia ruling is a matter of concern, which is not being looked into truly by the SSBS of some Islamic financial industry. The last one, internal and external Sharia review or audit. Okay, the first one, to perform a Sharia compliance review, which is internal and external. Second, to give due emphasis, which is to focus on the conduct of external exposed Sharia compliance review. Thirdly, to have close working relationship between audit committee and the internal auditor, also with external auditor. This is because to enhance the external auditor's capabilities in conducting such Sharia compliance review as a part of the audit works. Next and lastly, which is need to know format for Sharia compliance review.
Okay, I will continue to the last part for this group presentation, which is conclusion. Number one, the importance of Sharia governance in Islamic financial institution FIS is undeniable. Number two, proper mechanism and framework need to be created to enable proper advisory and supervisory role of Sharia Advisory Council SAC or Sharia Supervisory Board SSB. Number three, integration between the SAC or Sharia Advisory Council and Sharia Supervisory Board SSB of Islamic Financial Institution FIS should be facilitated to provide a conducive environment for a better Sharia governance. Number four, the scope of advice and supervision must include both micro and macro issues of Islamic Financial Institution or FIS. Number five, proper framework should be put in place to ensure optimal Sharia governance of Islamic Financial Institution FIS. A. On the appointment of Sharia Advisory Council (SSB) members, relationship between the two bodies, membership procedures, and so on. B. On the scope of advice and supervision, it should be a holistic approach looking not only at particular contracts or structures, but on the operations of Islamic financial institution (FI) as a whole, covering before, during, and after the execution of all products and structures. See on the internal and external Sharia compliance review or audit, there is dire need for a proper framework and guidelines. Number 6, constant enchantment on the framework is necessary to ensure optimal Sharia governance in Islamic finance. So that's all the presentation from my group. I, Ahmad Aiman, as a leader of the group and representing the group, would like to apologize if there are any shortcomings either in the presentation slides or when presenting this assignment. Okay, thank you for watching and bye bye.